Fellas, today I will be giving my thoughts on the new Hypercharge mechanic. Brawl Talk was a few hours ago, and I feel like I've had plenty of time to process my thoughts on the whole thing. When I first heard about the Hypercharge, I was kind of excited because the way I thought, okay, cool, they're gonna add something that adds depth to the game. It makes the game more exciting and fun to play. But well, we're getting to that later. Basically, in Brawl Talk, they showed off what the season was going to be, season 20, which, oh my god, 20 seasons. It's kind of crazy how it's been 20 seasons. They unveiled the Hypercharge, and I was hoping it wouldn't be something like this, but it is. It's basically, if you didn't watch Brawl Talk, which I highly doubt you didn't if you're watching this video. If you watch Brawl Talk, you know that the Hypercharge basically charge it up like a regular super, but it's slower. At least that's what I think they said. I think that's what Danny said, if I'm not mistaken. And once it's fully charged, your brawler, or in this case the 6 brawlers that are getting it this season, Colt, Shelly, Spike, Bull, Jackie, and the new brawler Pearl, once you use it, it upgrades their super, I believe. At least that's what it looked like. And buffs their attack, defense, and speed stats from what we could see. And I'll be honest, that was not at all what I was expecting. I was going into Brawl Talk hoping that, well, we kind of did get another button because the Hypercharge itself is a button itself, by itself, I mean. But I was kind of hoping that what we would get is like a button that you could charge with your super by like using your super or hitting your super. And it's basically like the super's equivalent to what the super is to the main attack. And I thought something like that would be pretty cool, but we ended up getting what a lot of people are saying is basically just a stick that buffs your stats, which I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of what it feels like. I'll be honest, when I first saw this, I thought it was terrible. This does not look very fun or good, or doesn't seem like it'll add much depth to the gameplay. But after thinking about it for a little bit, I think that I don't really think this is a negative thing that they've added to the game, but I also don't really think it's a positive thing. I just feel like it's a thing. Like, on one hand, it will make the game more fun, especially when they add more to other brawlers and every brawler has one, because it'll make the game more fun by like, say we're playing Lola, for instance. Like, what would hers do? Would it buff her ego so that stacking isn't the only viable option? Would it make stacking stronger? Like, who knows what the Hypercharge would do for Lola? And I'm just gonna move on because, frankly, hers is the only one I care about. It will also make things pretty high stakes, because like, if you're like, say you're in the middle of a heated match and one team has 10 gems and the other is like falling behind and there's like 10 seconds left on the clock, you could use your Hypercharge and possibly turn the game around, which I think that'll make things a little bit more interesting. But I don't really know. I just don't really think that this will add much skill or depth to the game. Like it basically is essentially just a stat buffing stick. That sounds so dumb, but that's how I feel like it really is. Because like, it doesn't really take skill away from the game, but it also doesn't really add any. Like, it just doesn't really seem like it'll impact the gameplay that much, aside from just the stat buffs. That's about really it. And like, a brawler like Bull or Jackie, like, they could definitely use the stat buffs and it'll help them a little bit better in their matchups. But like, at the same time, why not just give them those stats at base instead of this Hypercharge, you know? And like, essentially what it boils down to is like just a lane winner. Like, you could, like, at least that's how I feel like it'll just end up being. Is like say you're playing Shelly, you're laning against someone who counters Shelly, like Ems or something like that. I guess Ems would be a good example. And then you just pop the Hypercharge, and now Ems is just a joke to Shelly now, because Shelly has more speed, she has more defense, she has more damage, and she has a even better super. I fail to see the strategy in using them, like, other than what I said before, where like you could use it and save it for clutch situations. But like, in normal gameplay, I just fail to see where the strategic value comes from. It's kind of like a similar, it's not to the level, I would say, that gadgets have kind of taken skill or in strategy out of the game, but I feel like it just doesn't really add anything. Like it doesn't subtract anything, and it doesn't really add anything at the same time. So I guess it's not really a bad thing to have, but it's also really not. It's like a, why did we need this in the first place kind of thing. I've seen a bunch of people that I've talked to, they've, especially on Discord, they've kind of agree with my point of view, but at the same time there are quite a few people which I can understandably see why they're excited for the Hypercharge, because like in a competitive level, the Hypercharge isn't really going to add much to the strategy or the skill required in the game, like to like play the game. But in a casual space, which this game primarily marketed towards casuals, it's a very casual game. It's very easy to pick up and play, and just play with your brain off, which is the main reason why I like this game so much. In terms of casual play, the Hypercharge is going to be really fun to play with, because essentially, like I said before, it's basically a win button. So if you charge it up, you win. That's pretty much it. So yeah, a Hypercharge. I don't know, man. Personally, I'm not a fan of how it was done. I think the way I thought it was gonna be, where you use your super or you hit your super and it charges up another ability, kind of like an ultimate ability. I feel like that would have been cooler to see, and it could have potentially added strategic depth to the game. Well, more strategic depth, because Brawl Stars has some strategic depth. But at the end of the day, I'm not a game developer, so I don't really know. So my idea, they probably thought of it and they probably tested it, and they're like, you know what, this is probably not good. And so yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on the Hypercharge. As for the rest of the Brawl talk, it was pretty cool. I liked all the skins. I'm not going to be buying them because I'm a broke boy, but they are very cool. The new brawlers look really cool too, especially Chuck. He looks like he's going to be really fun to play. I think that's his name. Could be wrong. If it's not, I'll correct it later, I guess. The roadmap looks cool. It's a little sad to see that they don't have any plans for updating the map maker anytime soon, or in general, but that's kind of to be expected considering they said something about that like a few months ago. And then lastly, the stat changes everyone's talking about. I don't know. Like, I personally don't really care either way, because it's not like leveling up was really that fair to begin with in terms of the difference between like level 10 and 11 and stuff like that. But at the same time, I can understand, because that is basically essentially what used to be a 2-level difference now. So I guess it's kind of worrying, but at the same time, I don't really care. And yeah, that's about all I have to say about the Brawl talk. Hopefully I can make more videos soon, because this one was kind of a spur of the moment. I'm not gonna lie, I just realized I could just go outside to record instead of staying inside and waiting for everyone to leave. So there's that. But yeah, let me know down in the comments what you think about the Brawl talk, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.